are, and I'm sure the whole world is interested to find out. It's difficult to take these things for gospel at this stage, but I think it's good to see that we're taking steps towards peace, at least now, Josh.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Trump's plan may have come to fruition. It seems like he says it's on his terms. Lewis, one of the things he says is that he won't allow it to happen if they're going to rearm, if Ukraine is going to rearm. But also, there are Ukrainian troops in Russia. So he's like saying, I want them all to stop. Well, it's like, does that mean that you're going to pull back as well?
I think what it says that Putin's winning and the Russians are winning. And so when you're winning, you can say you got to accept my terms. I think the situation has changed a lot in a couple of weeks. I think whether you like Zelensky or doesn't like Zelensky, he doesn't have the cards. And he has less
where
cards.
have I heard that before?
Yeah, and he has less cards now than he did when he met with Trump.
People don't know it, but actually Trump got that from you, didn't he, that expression?
Well, it's an American expression, and I am an American, or was an American. And I hope I was an American. I think this is a really bad sign, because Putin now thinks he's won.
But is that not really Trump's ace here? Doesn't he need Putin to think that he's in some way got the upper hand in order to get Putin to the table and get peace done? That always seems to be, to me, the thing that underlies this whole peace deal, is that Trump, the art of the deal, so to speak, is trying to get Putin to the table by massaging his ego, letting him believe certain things, and just getting this deal done.
I guess it doesn't really matter how it happens. I guess the important thing is it happens. That isn't to say that I'm asking that Ukraine should be forced to give up any of its land, to not have the security guarantees that it needs or anything like that. But if we get there in a round way and people's egos are hurt, then no harm, no foul.
Yeah, and there are people still dying.
Yes, which is not good.
I've got bad news for you.
Uh-oh.
Zelensky is going to give up a lot. The Ukrainians have lost.
No, well, they haven't lost. That's the thing. It's a war of attrition. They've actually... People thought that they would lose in 3 days. They thought the whole country would be overrun, and it hasn't been.
They've been pushed out of... No, it's taken longer, and Russia has...
3 years, not 3 days.
It's like a Pyrrhic victory, but Russia's on the move.
Yeah, but on the move because suddenly America withdrew its intelligence, it's withdrawn its missiles.
Yeah.
So that's why it's on the move. That's why it's doing well. But it's a war of attrition. Of course, Russia is much larger, has greater resources. But at the end of the day, if it's pushed for long enough, it might get to a point where the war becomes unfeasible for Putin back home. But of course, how many people have to die for that to happen? That's not great. That's not a solution.
No, and I wonder whether Putin needs to be seen as a victor at home, because if he was to be toppled in some way, I think that makes that whole region much more unstable. We're much better to have a dictator that we understand than one that we don't.
Yeah.
I disagree with Josh.
Okay.
I think Putin has to stay in. Every leader of a war has to win the war, otherwise they get kicked out. And even the ones that win the war get kicked out, like Churchill got kicked out. But what's happened is I think, from what I know, is that the Ukrainians have been kicked out of the Kursk region of that area, and the Russians are more confident.
You know, I just suddenly got this weird, you know, like sometimes when you're out, like an out-of-body experience, and I just looked at the three of us, who, and I know us in real life, we're idiots.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'm a professional idiot.
And the idea that we're, like, solving the Russia-Ukraine war...
We understand it all.
You know what, let's move on to something we can solve, which is the Guardian.
I don't think I'm an idiot. I think I'm stupid.
Yes, you're right.
That's different.
There is a difference.
You, Josh, are an idiot.
I am an idiot. It's true. But
you're not
clever.
stupid. You're not stupid.
I'm a clever idiot. Anyway, let's move on. You can solve the NHS England for us, can't you, Lewis?
Well, I don't even understand this. I didn't even know what they're blaming the NHS failures on. But Streeting, who is the head of
Russia, right?
No, he's English and British, and he's the head of the Health Department of Health, whatever. And he's scrapping the NHS England in high-stakes push to improve care. He's firing 9,300 people. They're calling it 10,000. This is such a Trumpian move. It's so like Elon Musk.
But I think that this is actually a long-term plan from Wes Streeting. He's been talking from even before they got into power that it was all about trimming, making the NHS work. So to explain to people who aren't necessarily... We're not talking about, like, closing the NHS. This is NHS England, which is an organisation of basically middle management. None of them are doctors or anything like that in terms of, like, hands-on care. And this is about... And also it's about incorporating them back into the NHS and making government much more closely aligned so for the delivery of the NHS.
They're not incorporating them, they're firing them.
Well, for some of them, they are going to incorporate. There's like double departments.
I guarantee you, if the Tories were doing this, that the Labour would go mental about it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Well, so that's what makes it a hypocritical thing or questionable.
But it is starting to look like a real revolution from Wes Streeting. It's quite radical, this stuff. And like you say, NHS, you know, when you remove whole middle sections of the NHS like that, which everybody has argued has been a waste, potentially. Certainly a waste of NHS funding for some time now. It can only be a good thing if all that money goes into care, and anyone who's been into A&E recently, or anyone who's had... And I don't want to be critical of the NHS, because we've all had family members, and even ourselves, that have had excellent treatment from the NHS.
How would you know?
No,
how would you
my dad had cancer last year.
How would you know?
They sorted it out very quickly.
I had a butt reduction.
Butt reduction. Is that how you became
got the host role?
Gay idol?
I am, for people who don't know, it's
role.
official. There was an online Twitter poll, and I absolutely smashed it. I think above 50%.
You did.
And I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
You beat, like, Christie's and everything, didn't you?
I beat the whole team. In fact, let me give my gay fans just a little... There we go. That's a little taste for you guys.
Send them off to bed with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's... I mean, I don't want to criticise Streeting over this, because he seems to be taking this extremely seriously, and the NHS does need radical reform.
Yes, no, this is obviously a good first step. And if it's going to improve patient care and save money, then it's surely win-win.
We don't know whether that's going to happen. Nothing's going to save the NHS. The problem with the NHS is they have doctors working in there and they practice allopathic medicine.
Yeah, I wish you never dated that doctor.
Yeah.
Let's move on, please, Paul, to the Times.
The Times, and we've got a number of stories here, but I'm actually going to choose Take Nature's Painkiller by turning into Attenborough. So the Times here are saying the next time you have a headache, try taking a walk in the countryside or even watching David Attenborough documentary to relieve the pain. Yeah. Apparently I assume it releases serotonin in some way. I mean, I like a walk in the countryside. I don't imagine you go anywhere near the countryside. Josh, have you been in the countryside?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I live quite near the countryside. I'll take a walk. I've lost quite a bit of weight recently, and some of that is attributed to running into the countryside.
You got jealous about that gay icon thing, didn't you?
Yeah, I got very jealous about that.
But Lewis, what do you think about this? Experiments here, basically they were giving people electric shocks, but when they showed them nature documentaries or films of nature, they felt half the pain. So could this be some sort of pain relief?
I don't find looking at nature that pleasant, because I know that they're going to cut it down and put up housing projects or housing.
Oh my God. I mean, how did you get there?
There was such a good news story.
Works. That's incredible.
Well, it is. My brain is incredible. I'm not that smart, but I am incredible. The fact is that nobody wants to see David Attenborough because the guy's a major anti-Semite. He was maybe the first anti-Semite in this whole country.
Come on.
Is that true?
I've never heard of that. Yeah. I'm up on my anti-Semites, and I've never, ever heard about David Attenborough. This is old school. This is about 15 years ago. What did you hear that he was anti-Semitic? I've never heard of him being anti-Semitic.
Oh, now you're joking or are you serious?
I'm serious. What are you talking about? He's like a beloved institution.
He said that in the...
You talk about Roald Dahl?
That in one of the first wars in the Gaza. I'm not going to say what he said.
Oh, my God. I'm just going to say I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that
why don't you
whatsoever.
Google it right now?
I've got a list of anti-Semites, and David Attenborough is on my good boy list.
Or maybe it was the other.
Maybe it was another Attenborough. Maybe it was someone else. It was probably Roald Dahl.
Remember, this is a comedy program, so whatever I say cannot be taken.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank God for that.
I'm the one who's going to get in trouble.
Well, that's your job. Is to protect it.
Yeah, okay.
Is to protect it.
All right, let me protect you. Lewis did not mean that. Right, let's move on to some more paper front pages. We have the Daily Telegraph. Peace on my terms, warns Putin. The Sun, why I fell in love with the villa. And the Daily Star, what's the time, Mr. Psycho Scumbot Chatbot? So, Lewis, Daily Telegraph, please don't call David Attenborough an anti-Semite. in this one?
Well, I'm going to say he was accused of it. I don't know if he's an anti-Semite.
You're accusing him of it.
About 3 minutes ago.
I'm a Jew, so I can call anybody, whoever I want to, an anti-Semite because
That's
it's my
not how it
personal
works.
feeling. Yes, it is.
Okay.
It isn't. Well, nobody's talking in my ear.
We might need to change that.
This is the Daily Telegraph, and
Are
this
you saying that all Jews have people talking in their ears, telling them who to call anti-Semites?
Well, we should. Everybody should have somebody in their
we need
ear.
some help.
That's my problem. That's why I'm not a success in comedy, because I don't have somebody talking in my ear.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is piece on. This is more about Putin, and on the cover is this image.
This photo. Let's have the photo. Put the photo up, because if we can, it makes no sense.
This is a photoshopped image.
Is it?
Yes, it's completely photoshopped because you can see the wallpaper behind
There
the
it is.
guy. But in one of the earlier editions of the what was the first?
Is that a man or a woman who's doing the?
It looks a feminine face to me.
Yeah.
It looks like a young child.
But why are they going like that? Is that a Russian thing?
Maybe.
I don't know, but if you look, can you see this here?
Oh my God.
I don't know if
we've got some conspiracy. No, they can't see it. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll take your word for it.
It's a fake. It's a fake picture. It looks like a
fake picture.
You know,
I'm not convinced
like
it is fake.
It looks like a fake.
Anyway,
picture.
I just think it's bizarre.
I'm not saying David Attenborough is an anti-Semite.
Let's drop the.
How could this be the
stuff now,
story?
please. This is. But look, let's have a look at this. Cabinet minister caught using AI to come up with policy ideas.
I think this is a story of something right now we're quite surprised about, and it feels like they're robbing us in some way. You know, what's the point of politicians anyway? Some people would argue, and now they're not even creating their own policies; they're just using, grok or something. But I think if we look back on this story in maybe 3-5 years' time, that's how everything's going to be
the
generated.
real story is the point is he's the cabinet minister in charge of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So
why wouldn't he?
And the whole point of this story is that he is trying to prove. He's like asking AI, how can I help small businesses to start using AI? I don't know if it's not necessarily a joke article, but the point is he's proving the point here.
Yeah.
If you've got a minister in charge of artificial intelligence who's not using artificial intelligence, I'd say that's where we got more of a problem.
That's an excellent point. But the other point is, how worse is it than me going over to Paul? Paul, do you have any ideas about today's story? That's all you're asking.
You're saying I'm as good as AI.
You know what? I think that's a really good idea, and I think, Paul, you should attach yourself to this science secretary so he stops talking to AI, and anytime he's got an idea, he goes, Paul, instead. That would be a really good idea.
Looking forward to seeing you, Peter Kyle.
All right, Paul, talk to me through about the Sun here.
I know, the Sun, why I fell in love with Villa, and that's not me, that is Prince William. And Prince William has spoken of falling in love with Aston Villa after he was taken to the match by friends as a boy. Now,
I thought this was why I fell in love with all my villas.
As in his holiday homes?
Yeah, he's like, why I fell in love with villas, because they're outside and they're sunny and I have fun with Oh, it's a football team.
No, it's a and I'm probably the only one on here watching. Interestingly, he says he joins the fan forums online under a pseudonym, which I believe is King Willie. I don't know that for sure.
It's not David, hopefully it's not David Attenborough.
Yeah, probably not, no.
I mean, the team that I fell in love with, when I was in New York, I wanted to follow a football team in Britain.
Yeah.
And I picked Nottingham Forest because it sounded like England.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, Nottingham Forest, like Sherwood Forest, like Nottingham. We think of Nottingham.
And have you ever seen a game?
I have actually been to a few Villa games, and I'm a Crystal Palace supporter, basically.
Oh,
I am a Villa.
Very quickly, Daily Star, Lewis.
Daily Star. This is. What's the time, Mr. Psycho Scumbag? This is another AI story, and they're saying that the human beings, that the AI doesn't understand time.
Okay, that's it. Well, you've never summed up a story so succinctly before.
Expert.
There we go. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we have got a cracking section coming up. We've got this is the next story we're going to be doing. The Great Benefit Con. This is insane. Just 14% of people claiming disability cash can actually prove they are too ill to work. We're going to get into that. 2 minutes. See you in a sec.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GBNews, Britain's news channel.
GBNews Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Jason, actually, who worked for William and Kate, came out, and he worked for them between 2015 and 2021, I think. He came out and actually said, no, these allegations are there, and the Duchess of Sussex has always denied any allegations of bullying.
Yeah.
But these were accusations that were levelled at her when she was over here at Buckingham Palace, and also, interestingly, we have seen last year in particular allegations of her bullying TV production staff in America. So now these are allegations. Meghan obviously denies everything, but it does make you wonder there's no smoke without fire to have those allegations. Certainly bullying young junior members of staff, reducing people to tears. In the UK and in America, you do have to wonder whether this is lots of people who have axes to grind or whether it's actually true.
You and I would have been brought up in similar working environments, and I look and I think I wouldn't even go here with Dawn Neeson, because what we were used to, and I'm not saying subjected to, because everybody got it. There were loud voices, there was threatening behaviour. I had telephones thrown at me, cups thrown at me. I had a typewriter thrown at my feet, an Adler typewriter. And that was, what's wrong with this script? I don't know.
Was this telly bosses?
Yeah.
Most of the bosses I work for were basically psychopaths.
Yeah. Well, look,
it made them more driven.
I don't feel wounded or harmed by it, but what I do realise is that you could never replicate, you could never in any way say to anyone, what the heck are you doing? Because you're aggressive to it. Although I don't see it as aggressive, but just you need to point out to people where they're doing things wrong. So I don't know how, in this day and age, you actually get people back on the right track or not.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Can you stop talking about David Attenborough? So, welcome back to Headliners, kicking off with Friday's mail poll, and the government want to prove who is disabled. I hope they don't introduce an assault course.
Well, exactly. The great benefit con. Just 14% of people claiming disability cash can actually prove they are too ill to work, as total getting handouts nears 2.5 million. So this comes against the backdrop of Starmer and Reeves, of course, becoming under pressure because they're trying to cut the benefits bill by $5 billion. Not an easy thing for a Labour government to have to do.
It's quarter of a black hole.
It is quarter of a black hole. And this is no longer a left and right issue as well. It's very difficult. I wrote something about Labour becoming... I wrote something about Labour becoming more Tory-like with this benefit thing. And it became quite clear to me on Twitter that so many people rely on benefits. And I knew this anyway, anecdotally, but people genuinely rely on benefits. So this is quite scary for people. And the main story here, of course, is that only 14% of them can prove that they cannot work.
And it's gone up 500,000 people in the last year.
That's quite
500,000 in the
a scam,
last
isn't
year.
it?
Well, it's not that it's a scam. Maybe there are people with mental health issues, maybe they're not. But I know a bunch of people who are a little bit dodgy, who are sort of claiming mental health or whatever. I haven't seen them for a while, ever since I started working on this channel. But they won't speak to you anymore. But Lewis, the fact that only 14% can prove that they are disabled, surely that means that there are going to be some people in there who are actually being a little bit dodgy.
Well, this is very contentious to say, and every time in America they say, well, they've only proven it's only 10% of the people that could be possibly, maybe, but 90% of them aren't. Yeah, this country is way too generous to these losers, and I think what's happened is the reason this is out in the open now is because Keir Starmer wants to blow up the world and make NATO strong again and destroy Russia. Russia. So he needs money. And so he's thinking, you know what, we're going to have to go against all of whatever he supposedly believed.
Well, it's going to go up to 70 billion a year unless they do something. So it can't survive. It's a third of the cost of the NHS. And you have it's interesting what you're saying, Paul, about like Labour. This is sort of a non-Labour move, or it's not about left-right anymore.
I don't think it is.
There are people on the left of Labour who are now
big time.
who are really against this, and I feel like anyone who's got a brain knows that it's not sustainable as it is. But those on the left, and they're talking here about like Richard Bergen and a bunch of other people, they're sort of complaining. It seems like they can go, no, we have to be compassionate and all of this, because they have to appeal to their left or far left base. But anybody who's realistic knows that it can't go on as is. And this is what Keir Starmer's saying, and I respect that. I think that it's easy to do this kind of easy virtue signalling, but I think those people on the far left are actually doing a huge amount of damaging because they're sort of undermining the seriousness of Labour and what Labour needs to achieve to make this country work.
This country can't afford a huge welfare state in the way that it really hasn't done for many, many years. You can blame Tories, but Labour before that had lots of trouble as well. The point is, we do need a welfare state, but it needs to be one that targets the right people, and it's as simple as that.
And I mean, Lewis's argument, this is a sort of also a bit of an insult to genuinely disabled people, or what we would think of traditionally, people who can't use their legs, people who don't have it, you know, for that to be put in the same category as someone who's frankly just feeling a bit depressed or even just conning the system. It's unfair for them.
Well, does this mean I'm not going to get any money? This is not a right
under mental health.
Yeah, but whatever. Why can't I get
oh my God, I see your plan now.
Yeah.
You've spent 3 years on this show basically setting yourself up for getting a mental health disability. That makes total sense. OK, 3 years explained. Lewis, Friday's Telegraph, and it seems that a lot of people on benefits already have jobs as estate agents.
Well, this is another one of those questions. Social housing cheats defraud taxpayers £1 billion a year. And this is about council housing and how the people are using their council housing to set up, what do you call the
Airbnb.
Airbnb, renting it out and making more money. The problem is, it's like the BBC. Once you make people pay for somebody else's benefit, let's say, is that they're going to be a little bit, they're going to be upset when you make money off of it.
I don't know where Lewis is getting the BBC on this particular story.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because it is like the BBC. Because the BBC is state-owned, so everybody who's watching it is putting money into it.
But no one is hiring out their TV licence to someone else and pretending not to use it. I just think the analogy...
Yeah, but it doesn't benefit me because I don't watch the BBC.
Okay. Well... Okay.
So I'm upset with it. But if somebody else wanted to pay for their own BBC, we wouldn't be upset. And somebody else, we've had to pay for council houses.
Okay, but you're discussing council housing as the phenomenon of council housing. What we want to talk about here is specifically the people who have council houses or flats who are maybe they're living with other partners and they are renting and making money out of these council houses, making profits on it. And the story is really about the fact that it hasn't been detected. 40% less detections over the last, decade?
And they're blaming that on central government cuts to local authorities. And, OK, that seems like a very easy thing to blame it on. But the detection of somebody, whether they live in a house or not, it doesn't seem that onerous to me. I don't want to oversimplify this. I'm sure someone in a local...
Someone can literally walk around, knock on the door...
Well, there's a list of people of where they should live and what address it's in. If you just did spot checks and you did one a week, that 40% would increase incredibly.
Or what they could do is, let's be honest with the thing. Or they could say, we don't want any more council housing.
OK, it's a different story, though.
No, it underpins that. They're renting out flats
well, some people are. The point is they need to...
The government is unfit to be in the medical business. That was an article in the NHS. The government is unfit to be building housing and be a housing landlord.
All right, well, let's see if we're fit to do the next story. Times... Well, what a great link that was, eh?
Lovely.
A banished Ghanaian fraudster is so sad he's been allowed back into the country. I wonder how sad he'll be when he Gets here.
Another interesting story. Depressed fraudster deported to Ghana can return, judge rules. So this is Samuel Frimpong. He argued that his human rights of his wife and children in the UK had been interfered with. He was convicted of a fraud crime in 2008. He was deported from the country in 2013, but he's been allowed to return by Judge Abid Mahood, who has ordered that the deportation must be revoked. And revoked because his wife had complained that it impacted his children negatively, isolated them from their father. They kept asking where their dad is, can he not come to the UK? And essentially, because of human rights laws, they've been able to
family life.
The right to a family life. Look, here's the thing. We see these stories.
I love it when you tell us his. Tell me the thing.
We see these stories all the time, don't we? And I'm sure there is a human rights argument, but I think it's a nonsense. If the guy comes to the country and he commits a fraud, he did that at risk. He did that at risk, knowing that this could well have happened. He put his family at risk. He made his children upset. He made his wife depressed. Not the country, not the taxpayer. And I think he should pay the price.
You know what? This is a series of stories, Lewis. Just very quickly about these kind of seemingly ridiculous cases. Yet I have to disagree with Paul Lewis. And normally I'm very much behind that, but in this case, it's like it was fraud. It was 2008. He hasn't done anything since then. He's part of a church now. Part of me thinks like you have to be a human being in some circumstances here. It's not like he's some of the more serious crimes that we've seen committed.
No, because he knew what he was getting into. He knew he was a visitor to this country. He didn't have citizenship. He wasn't a citizenship, so he should pay the price. And that should be a lesson.
Try to have a heart. That
should be a lesson to everybody out there. When you break the rules of this country and you don't have citizenship,
then all right,
goodbye.
Fine. Okay, look, we've got lots of cracking stories still to come. The next stories I'm very excited to do this one. The trans row engulfing the Met Police. You do not want to miss that. See you in a couple of minutes.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, Egypt has discovered, well, I think it was a British and Egyptian team, actually, finding the historic discovery, the long-lost tomb of King Thutmose II, the last of the lost tombs of the kings of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty.
Yes, and it's the first royal Egyptian tomb to be discovered since King Tutankhamun's final resting place was found in 1922.
A very exciting discovery, and here to tell us all about it is the historian and author Martin Whittock. Martin, the first royal tomb since Tutankhamun.
Indeed, and identified as King Thutmose II. Other pronunciations are also available. And as you say, it's the last of the lost tombs of Egypt's 18th dynasty. They ruled between about 1550 BC and 1292 BC. It had been known before this tomb since 2022 as Tomb C4, as its occupant was then unknown. But what's happened now is parts of alabaster vessels have been found which have inscriptions bearing the name of Pharaoh Thutmose II and identifying him as the deceased king, along, interestingly, with the name of his wife, Hatshepsut. Now, she's an interesting woman because after he died, she ruled as pharaoh in her own right, one of only 2 women to do so in ancient Egyptian history. Now, the mummy of King Thutmose II was actually discovered during the 19th century at a nearby archaeological site known as Deir el-Bahari Kashet, and it's thought it was moved there after it had been looted by tomb raiders centuries ago. So the tomb is not going to give us the kind of treasures that we associate with Tutankhamun, I'm afraid, but it shows us the architecture of these royal tombs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Lewis, in the interval, I Googled David Attenborough. His parents fostered 2 Jewish refugee girls from Nazi Germany.
Yeah, that doesn't mean he's not an anti-Semite.
What are you talking? His family are heroes. He's a hero. He's a national icon.
Yeah.
Apologise to David Attenborough right now.
I am sorry. I don't know.
Okay, there we go.
Sorry.
There we go. Sorry, Mr. Attenborough. David, Sir Attenborough. Lewis has mental health issues, or at least he's trying to feign mental health issues to go on benefits.
And maybe David Attenborough had those Jewish people to seem like they were.
No. Just look. We've done. Okay, on to the Daily Telegraph. And thank you, David Attenborough, Sir David Attenborough, for watching the show. We're big fans of yours.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the Telegraph. Paul. Hello. What's under your helmet?
The trans row engulfing the Met Police. A female officer is taking the force to court after it sent staff on a celebration of the transgender community. Now, the Met, they brought in a roster of trans-associated people to give talks on how to become a trans ally, and Detective Constable Melanie Newman is taking the force to court because she's saying it discriminated against staff like her who are gender critical, much like us, Josh. And we see this sort of stuff a lot. It's huge overreach on the behalf of big organisations, and they seem to be compensating. They seem to be. I mean, we all forget that in the last census, 0.5% of the population identified as trans, those over 18, OK? Which was probably a bit of an exaggeration. A lot of people identify as trans, it would appear, but it still only makes up half of 1%. Whereas we do know for sure that definitely 51% of the nation are women. And we seem to be favouring this 0.5% over the 51% all the time. And it's no surprise that people like, Melanie Newman is kind of up in arms about this. It's about time that someone stood up and said, do you know what? I'm a woman. Can we please just respect I'm a real one?
Well, Paul's talking about institutions. We've talked many stories about the NHS. Here we've got the Met basically having a day of gender ideology propaganda, Lewis.
Yeah, because people believed in this stuff a couple of years ago. I don't think they realized that with Donald Trump's election that this trans thing is dead. That people don't like it, they don't believe in it, and they don't want men wearing dresses.
It's not
in public.
No, it's not about that. It's about what they do. No, men.
Why is that funny?
No, because it's not about men. Men wear dresses. I tried on a dress once, and it felt like kind of swishy between my legs. Yeah. That's not the point. The point is, I'm not then going to go, oh, now I can go to women's prison when I get done for benefit fraud, or be in a female sport or anything like that. That's the point of it. And now you have to call me this.
But even if that wasn't the point is that there are certain items of clothing that bother people, and one of those items of clothing is a man wearing a dress.
Okay, that it's not.
Am I not allowed to say that?
You can say that. That's totally fine, but that's not what the story is about. The story is about the Met being totally captured by this ideology, pumping this stuff out there to its police officers, validating it, arresting women for putting up stickers defending biological sex.
Is it against the law for the Met to do this? Is there a law?
Well, this is what the argument is, because if you're going to have somebody basically sprouting this highly contested ideology as fact, bringing in other ideologues to tell police that this is the stuff that you have to be doing, this is what the law is.
No, it's not.
Well, this is what they're doing. This is all the stuff. They were misrepresenting the law.
Forced to be there, like we were forced to be.
Well, this is the thing. They're told that some of them were told, oh, go there, be there. It's the Met validating this ideology, and it's been a real problem. As you say, though, and you are correct, beyond the stupid dress comment, is that it's not that it's dead as such. Trans people exist, and that's great. But what it is gender ideology as a movement has been called out, certainly by Trump, and we are seeing things like this story a couple of years ago where this stuff was just uncritically just vomited out there upon people.
But it's not against the law for the men to have this.
Well,
thing.
she's saying it is, or at least her rights
it creates a hostile environment.
Yeah.
Well, I could say me being with you creates a hostile environment.
Well, then sue me.
Yeah, I should sue you for it.
Go for it. You got no money.
I've got no money.
No, you haven't. I've checked.
Okay, yeah, fine.
Okay.
All right, Friday's Mel Lewis and some token Jews in New York are causing a scene as opposed to the real one if you don't do the story properly.
All right, thank you. Yeah, that's a hostile environment. And people out there know this is a hostile environment for me where I'm being forced to work.
This isn't work, mate.
This is the Daily Mail. Tomorrow it's going to be £1.10.
Yay! Drink.
Anyway, breaking news, chaos as protesters storm Trump Tower, which is there's no lock on the door, so anybody can go in there because it was negotiated.
Makes it so easy.
Because in the place...
He's too trusting.
Yeah. No, it's not that they were trusting. Is the city demanded that if he wanted to put a couple of extra floors on his building, he had to have an open space.
Oh, it's a bit, okay.
So that's why it was. But so they're protesting the fact that this guy, Mahmoud Khalil...
Wow, you said that like a real...
Yeah, something. He's a Palestinian, supposedly, who was born and raised in Syria. His parents are Algerian. He comes from Cairo or something.
Yeah, he was born in Syria, raised in Algeria. He's got an Algerian passport. Right. I don't know why that makes him Palestinian. Yeah. He wasn't born in Palestine.
Well, he says
there's no country called Palestine.
He's self-identifying. And so, like 200 people went in there and they started to protest. And a lot of them were supposedly Jews.
Yeah, what are they called? Jewish Voice for Peace. Now, this organisation is hilarious because, first of all, we don't know who backs it. It sounds like it's Qatar or someone like that.
Yeah.
But the amount of, non-Jews there is hilarious. Like, when they print out a poster, they'll do Hebrew, like a Hebrew word, but they'll print it left to right, whereas Hebrew is right. They get everything wrong. They'll do Hanukkah, but they don't use a Hanukkah. They use a menorah, which has got a different number of candles. So when they try and pretend that they're Jewish, they always get it wrong.
But the fact is, they might even be able to get Jews to come because Jews are just as stupid as everybody else.
Happy Purim, by the way, everybody.
Happy Purim. But Jews can be just as stupid as everybody else. It'd be nice if you could say they're Jews. They don't want to kill themselves. But look at the British people. You're killing yourselves with what's going on for the last few years.
Well, because getting to the story, this is Paul. This is Mahmoud Khalil, and this is the gentleman. He was over there on initially a student visa. He's got a green card now, and everyone's saying you can't do it. He hasn't broken the law. That's not the point. The point is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to go to court or anything. They just revoke it. Yes. He has broken the terms they see as in terms of inciting terrorism, supporting a terrorist organisation, Hamas. They can just kick him out. Good. Why can't we do that?
It's exactly the point, isn't it? There doesn't seem anything really wrong with this. And Trump came in on a very strong manifesto to eradicate this stuff, particularly on student campuses. We saw this all the time, didn't we? Pro-Palestine rallies would overtake complete educational institutions and shut them down.
There was violence against Jews, intimidation of Jews, calls for the murder of all Jews, and of course it's also anti-Western as well. They're calling for the destruction of the West.
But the reason why we can't do it here is because the same reason they're having a hard time in America, because you suddenly get dated with hundreds of people in Trump Tower.
Paul, do you remember here there was a young woman who was on the news sort of supporting Hamas, supporting the violence of Hamas. She was on a student visa, not British. They pulled the visa, I think it was Robert Jenrick, and then a judge said, no, you can stay. That's insane.
Yep.
That's insane. Oh, gosh, the Times next, Paul. I'm afraid this story also has Jewish people in it. It's a total coincidence.
I'll leave that up for our audience. School founded by refugee from Nazi Germany drops Jewish speaker.
Even I'm sick of Jews now.
Yeah, me too. Sorry. I mean, what's today's day, by the way? What we celebrate?
Purim. Happy Purim.
Yeah, happy Purim. So this is at the UWC Atlantic College, which is a fee-paying college in Wales, and journalist Jonathan... how do you pronounce it again, Josh?
Sacerdoti.
I don't want to get it wrong. Sacerdoti. And he was due to speak, and it was pulled. And it was pulled basically after a group of students expressing pro-Palestinian views objected.
Right, and they objected because of their emotional safety. Now, Lewis, I would love to stick them in a room with you for half an hour.
Well, we could discuss it, because I never feel emotionally safe with you, Josh.
Well, but no one feels emotionally safe.
The point is, where is the money collected from? If it's collected from the students and the government of this country gives no money to them.
It's a private school, so you think it's totally fine for them to do this?
I wouldn't say it's totally fine, but they should be able to do what they want to do.
Well, the point is, the school was created by a German Jewish educator.
Yeah.
It's a fee-paying school, but it also has lots of grants for people who are underprivileged. And the idea that someone can't come and give a talk...
It's bad, but let the school decide for themselves. Why are you so interfering in these people when it doesn't affect you?
You know what? We're going to cover this story fully. We're actually going to get Jonathan into studio on Sunday on Free Speech Nation. If you want to be in the audience, www.sroaudiences.com.
But you don't believe in free speech, Josh.
Audiences.com. Come back in a minute, because women in India should each be allowed to commit one murder. What? See you in 2 minutes.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We've got some warm weather on the way over the next few days across the eastern Mediterranean, but further west, very unsettled still, with some heavy rain and thunderstorms. The showers most prominent across parts of southern Spain through the course of Friday, an improving story across parts of Portugal, but colder than average temperatures across Iberia. Some heavy rain and some snow across northern parts of Italy and the Balkans, but down across Greece, some fairly warm and sunny weather for the time of year with temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. To finish off the week, we're going to see a cold start tomorrow, frost in places, then another day of sunny spells, but also some showers. And it's still going to be feeling largely chilly too. That's all thanks to this northerly flow of air, bringing in some cold air from the Arctic, stretching its way across the country. There's some slightly lighter wind, which are going to make things feel a little less chilly as we head into tomorrow. But for the overnight period, a continuation of some showers feeding into northern areas, likely bringing some snow, particularly across the Scottish Highlands, and then later on tonight we could see some hill snow across parts of Wales too. But a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, but the clearest skies across parts of the south and southeast, where we're likely to see quite a sharp frost. But overall into tomorrow, it is going to be a cold start for many. Still plenty of showers by the time we start Friday morning across the northeast of Scotland. Perhaps a little bit brighter across the west, though likely seeing some patchy frost here. Largely dry and bright across parts of Northern Ireland, though can't rule out a few showers skirting coastal areas. And a mix of cloud and some showers across the rest of England and Wales, once again bringing in some snow across the Welsh hills. Through the course of the morning, things will brighten up, any frost or ice likely quickly melting away, and it's going to be a fairly similar day. Once again, still plenty of showers feeding into eastern coast, these spreading more inland through the course of the day, but western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing a largely dry day, and temperatures still fairly similar to what they were today, highs around 8 to 9 Celsius, and in those lighter winds still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. For the beginning of the weekend, once again a cold and frosty start, this time across many northern areas, but through the course of the day brightening up, and we're likely to see fewer showers for the start of the weekend. That's away from northern parts of Scotland, so some bright sunshine on offer, but perhaps turning a little bit cloudier into the afternoon. And into next week, staying largely dry, but it is going to be remaining cold, still with a chance of some overnight frost. Bye-bye.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. On to the Daily Mail, Lewis, with some political policy straight out of Spartan Greece.
Oh, OK, what number are we up to?
12, the one we talked about during the interval about 5
I know,
times.
sorry, I missed it. Sorry.
You're just Googling David Attenborough, aren't you?
No, here we. Because I want to apologise to David Attenborough.
Yeah, you feel bad about it now, don't you?
Because there are enough anti-Semites, you don't have to pick on somebody that's not an anti-Semite.
No, there's a false quote attributed to him. That's why. So, I mean, do you think that this has been following around and you're spreading it to our audience? But you've taken it back, you've apologised. Let's hope.
But you know what? You can never take back an apology in this day and age. Anyway, this is in the Daily Mail, £1.10. Women in India should each be allowed to commit one murder due to rape epidemic, politicians suggest. And this
Can I nominate somebody?
Yeah. And this is Rohini Hadzi. I don't know what the name is.
A bit of a racist way of pronouncing it, but yeah.
Well, no, it's not. I don't care about Indians. I don't hate the Indians. I actually like the Indians. Some Indians I like quite a lot. Anyway, so head of the women's wing of the Nationalist Congress Party, they're like one of the opposition parties, they said because women are being raped, that each woman should be allowed to kill at least one man. But the truth is that all women think all men are culpable and deserving of death. So I don't know why they only say one murder.
Do you think they should 2 murders? Maybe because it's like to give one woman a murder each.
I mean, there does appear to be this horrendous epidemic of rape and sexual attack against women and girls.
Now you've got to bring it down.
I mean, the more you read this story,
it's grim.
It's absolutely disgusting. I don't advise anyone to. Lots of stuff about gang raping a 12-year-old just recently, which put this... And I have to say it, Josh, because... And this is why this woman... Because you read this at first and think, this is an absolutely outrageous policy suggestion. Then you read the story and you're like, do you know what? Given everything that's happened, why not?
I think she's doing it to prove a point that women need to fight back. But whatever's going on in India, it's not working. And it's insane that the problem has actually gotten worse under this this government, the BJP. So something has got, even though they have introduced laws now. But I mean, some of these stories are.
Well, the complaint has been made about India that it's a low trust society.
Yeah. Well, you're not safe there as a woman.
There's also a lot of there's some stories about tourists being raped as well.
Yeah, of course, tourists are raped. Local people keep an eye on their kids. Whatever. What?
Let's try and finish the show on like an upbeat.
It wasn't me who put this story in. This is a comedy program.
You're right. It was my fault. I apologise. Daily Mail next, Lewis. And as the old saying goes, the lunatics are now running the mental health advisory.
I'm going to pick this one up, I think. Mental Health Advisory Board members' bizarre pronouns stuns meeting. And this is a member of the Oregon Health Authority, so a professional person, J.D. Holt, who goes by J.D. Terrapin on Facebook, apparently. And she said, hello, everybody, it's J.D. I use
Don't call her she, call her Tortoise.
Yeah,
Tortoise said.
Tortoise, yeah. Well, I'll get on to that, because she says, hello, everybody, it's JD. I use they, them and turtle for my pronouns, which is obviously bizarre and ridiculous and great fodder for headliners. But apparently turtle gender, or sometimes tortoise gender, is a xenogender identity in which one feels a gender connection to turtles.
Yes, this is on Gender Wiki. This is official. And the mental thing, Lewis, is that turtle is on the a mental health board. This is great. This is why these institutions are so captured. These people work for them. They advise them.
Well,
she thinks she's a turtle.
Yes. Yeah, so what? I mean, the fact is, she's not an administrator. She's just some random person who was pulled in off the street, who's a bit crazy. The fact is, there are 17 other people who are not turtles. So
who knows what they are?
That's only 1 in 17. That's less than 6% or something.
I don't know. This is just another example of just these institutions allowing. She serves on an advisory board, and I understand that these are members of the public brought in. But the fact that this is indulged, that they are actually listened to, is ridiculous. And this is why you've got like these psychiatry in the US being totally captured. Anyway, look, show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Friday's front pages. The Daily Express. Putin. I will agree truce, but only on my terms. The Guardian, Streeting scraps NHS England in high-stakes push to improve care. The Times, Putin backs ceasefire in Ukraine, but on his terms. Telegraph, peace on my terms, warns Putin. The Sun, why I fell in love with Villa, that is Prince Andrew, no, who is
William, King Willie,
one of them, whatever. And Daily Star, what's the time, Mr. Psycho Scumbag Chatbox. So that's it for tonight's show. Thank you very much to my guests, Paul and Lewis. Sorry again to David Attenborough. Leo Curtis is going to be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Nick Dixon and Cresta Wetton. If you're watching 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. To finish off the week, we're going to see a cold start tomorrow, frost in places, then another day of sunny spells, but also some showers. And it's still going to be feeling largely chilly too. That's all thanks to this northerly flow of air, bringing in some cold air from the Arctic, stretching its way across the country. There's some slightly lighter wind, which are going to make things feel a little less chilly as we head into tomorrow. But for the overnight period, a continuation of some showers feeding into northern areas, likely bringing some snow, particularly across the Scottish Highlands, and then later on to the night we could see some hill snow across parts of Wales too. But a mix of cloud and some clearer spells, but the clearest skies across parts of the south and southeast, where we're likely to see quite a sharp frost. But overall into tomorrow, it is going to be a cold start for many. Still plenty of showers by the time we start Friday morning across the northeast of Scotland. Perhaps a little bit brighter across the west, though likely seeing some patchy frost here. Largely dry and bright across parts of Northern Ireland, though can't rule out a few showers skirting coastal areas. And a mix of cloud and some showers across the rest of England and Wales, once again bringing in some snow across the Welsh hills. Through the course of the morning, things will brighten up, any frost or ice likely quickly melting away, and it's going to be a fairly similar day. Once again, still plenty of showers feeding into eastern coast, these spreading more inland through the course of the day, but western parts of Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland seeing a largely dry day, and temperatures still fairly similar to what they were today, highs around 8 to 9 Celsius, and in those lighter winds still feeling pleasant in the sunshine. For the beginning of the weekend, once again a cold and frosty start, this time across many northern areas, but through the course of the day brightening up, and we're likely to see fewer showers for the start of the weekend. That's away from northern parts of Scotland, so some bright sunshine on offer, but perhaps turning a little bit cloudier into the afternoon. And into next week, staying largely dry, but it is going to be remaining cold, still with a chance of some overnight frost. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound? For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I do think that there is extremities in how this has been approached with, you can't eat kebabs anymore. The Climate Change Committee isn't talking about banning meat. It's talking about reducing meat, perhaps having some incentives for plant-based diets. It's talking about doing small changes, not phasing out everything, doing small changes to move to a net zero future, a more sustainable future.
How can me not having a lodge donor combat, I don't know, China opening 1 coal-fired power station a week? Come on, this is pointless.
Well, there is other things that have been advised beyond just, reducing our meat consumption. There's things around the tax around flying and aviation, producing less fossil fuel imports and switching to more renewable power, upgrading the grid. There's a lot of other advisories collectively that moves us towards a net zero future. There is a few, of course, we can go down the route of, they can't eat the kebab anymore, but there's far more other things at play than just the kebab meat.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump, that man again, is just laughing at all this. Drill, baby, drill. You're not telling me that his cabinet are going to chow down on some quinoa. This is a red meat country leading the way, and if we had half a brain about us, we'd be drilling ourselves.
I come from an energy industry background. I work for a data intelligence company, Mapstand, as well. And what we are seeing is that what's happening in America is actually quite short-term thinking. It's not long-term thinking. Whereas in places in China, you're seeing a lot of innovation and green innovation because there is a huge economic opportunity.
Yeah, because they're selling it all to the West and polluting their atmosphere. We're offshoring our carbon footprint, and they're selling the solar panels back to us because we're the mugs.
We're also able to be the producers and also change our own energy so that we can also compete.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good evening. Trump threatens to financially devastate Russia unless she signs a ceasefire deal. We also look at Keir Starmer and Wes Streeting. They seem to be more right-wing than the Conservatives. What does it all mean? And I'm afraid smart meters will now, I think, be forced upon us. I hate the idea, but I'm not sure we can fight on against it any longer. First, though, let's get the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much indeed. Good evening to you. Our top stories. Donald Trump says Vladimir Putin's comments on the US ceasefire plan are promising but not complete after the Russian president suggested he has a number of issues with the proposal. The US president was speaking alongside the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, in the Oval Office. Now, this was shortly after Putin addressed the war in his own news conference, where he appeared to set out a series of sweeping conditions that would need to be met before Russia would agree to any truce. Trump says NATO's stepping up in terms of providing European security and that he will make sure Russia doesn't attack US allies, adding he has leverage over Putin without elaborating. Trump says it will be very disappointing if Russia rejects the ceasefire proposals.
Going on right now with President Putin and others, and hopefully they all want to end this nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a horrible thing.
Well, earlier, Vladimir Putin indicated Russia's in favour of the ceasefire, but says serious issues must be resolved before progress can be made. The Russian leader suggested Ukraine should neither rearm nor mobilise, and Western military aid to Kyiv should be halted during a 30-day pause. He was speaking alongside Alexander Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus, ahead of meeting Donald Trump's top envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's in Moscow for talks later on the war. Thousands of jobs in the UK's healthcare sector will be cut after the Prime Minister announced NHS England's to be abolished to cut bureaucracy and restore democratic control. NHS England employs around 13,500 people. The move is expected to take up to 2 years. Well, the Prime Minister says the state's overstretched and unfocused, and he says abolishing the world's biggest quango will allow the service to refocus on reducing waiting times. Sir Keir says the government decision has been influenced by global events.
National security is economic security and strength abroad, and we definitely need that more than ever at the moment, but that demands security back at home.
Well, the Health Secretary says the NHS has become more expensive while delivering worse care for patients across the country.
Health and Social Care Act established more than 300 new NHS organisations, created a complex and fragmented web of bureaucracy, and, to quote the Darzi investigation, imprisoned more than 1 million NHS staff in a broken system. Well, today, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are putting the final nail in the coffin of the Conservatives' disastrous top-down reorganisation of the NHS.
Finally, the killers of Shara Sharif have failed in their appeals against the